Here's the plan for today. I've been a music producer for about 10 years, a little bit more than that at this point. What we're going to be doing today is using a tier list that was made on Tier Maker. I did not make this tier list. It's not comprehensive. There's going to be a lot of gaps. I can automatically say that there's some pretty noticeable gaps. There's not much in the way of techno music here. However, what we're going to do is we're going to be going over a bunch of different subgenres of electronic music, and I will be doing a personal tier list. So if this is the kind of thing that you're into, feel free to disagree with me in the comments below. Feel free to share your favorite genre, and obviously like and subscribe as well if you'd like to see more. Let's have some fun with it. Again, this is all my opinion. I don't have any opinions about individual artists that I'm sharing. I'm just going to be talking about genres as a whole, how it feels for me. These are not necessarily um, broad opinions. You know, obviously every genre has great songs within it. But if we're going to just be loosey goosey and fun with it, this is going to be my opinion on a bunch of these genres. We're just going to go in order. I will say there's a couple here that I don't really know too much about. And as I mentioned already, there's a bunch that are actually missing a bunch of context. This list didn't have a lot of stuff like techno, which I think is a really big oversight. But some of the other lists were like too big or were missing some other big areas. So I'll just say techno gets a thumbs up from me. I grew up in the Detroit area, so I'm always going to have a great spot in my heart for techno. But let's get into it. So electro swing. Electro swing for me is kind of the border. Like C, if let's for a second make sure that we're clear here. So if S is just like absolute best, I can put it on anytime, absolutely enjoy it. And if F is I just will not ever listen to it, and then don't know or listen to is just if I don't know or listen to it. C is going to be about the mid tier. It's like I'm not really going to listen to it. I'm not really going to be mad about it. But from there, like it's fine. Or if it's on, I'm fine. But I'm not maybe too excited about it. I'd say D is where I'm like probably actively a little bit annoyed with it. And I'm going to probably have to say that while most electro swing is kind of borderline mid for me, I think I'm gonna have to put it into the D tier just because for me, I do actively not really enjoy the genre. I feel like a lot of it is very, very stiff and it like tries to bring in funk elements and oftentimes hides relatively simple songs behind showmanship. As I said, there's great electro swing songs out there. There's great electro swing artists out there, but the genre as a whole, there's a lot of mid in there for me, and it's something where I've been to enough sets and seen it enough live where for me personally it's just the kind of thing where I'm not really that into it. And I probably like if I'm at a concert with a few stages and one of the artists starts playing electro swing or the next guy up is electro swing, I'd probably pretty quickly be looking at what's on the other stages. This next one over here, I don't know what this is. Vocal trance, I think I'm probably going to put alongside with electro swing. As I said, I am a big fan of stuff like techno, but I'm really a big fan of the more like minimal instrumental side of electronic music as a whole. I'd say over the past few years, I've been listening to more stuff with vocals, but generally speaking, if it has vocals, it's going to be on the lower end of my list. And I think that vocal trance just doesn't really do it for me. A lot of it is really drawn out. A lot of the vocals can oftentimes be very just meh slash boring. I think that there are a few artists in there that do it pretty well. I might actually move it up to C just because the live experience I think can really be a little bit different than just listening to it at home. I think I'll put it at a C. Synthwave, I don't really have a strong opinion on it. I think that there's some interesting stuff going on there. I'll just put it at a C. I think I've liked the stuff that I've heard. I think I haven't listened to it enough to have a strong opinion on it. I think a lot of the stuff that I heard is just a little bit, I don't know. I'll just say that I'm not going to be mad if it's playing, and we'll leave it at that. Mid tempo. So I will go ahead and just put mid tempo up into the A tier. I'm a huge mid tempo fan. Obviously, it's a broad genre, but I would say like mid tempo melodics, mid tempo glitch, like all of that kind of stuff, where it's not like super high energy and not trying to force you to be high energy. and just really is just focusing more on like just being in the pocket of the song is stuff that I really, really enjoy. Next up, big room. I'm gonna put big room into D, maybe even into F. It's great if you're like 22 and you're with a bunch of friends out at a club and you don't really care about the music and you're just out to have a good time. And even if you're like older than that and that's kind of what you're doing, you're just going out to have a good time and you just want to have high energy music. But for me to actually just listen to it, to turn it on, to have it in the background, or even to be at a show where like I am not at a point in my life where I'm, going out and doing the partying thing, etc. I just, for me, it's not the kind of thing that I really enjoy that much. This next genre over here, glitch. So glitch is a pretty wide genre. I am going to actually go ahead and put glitch all the way up into the S tier though. It is a wide genre. It has a lot of range to it. I mean, you can go from like slower mid-tempo glitch all the way through glitch hop, which I think we're gonna actually have over here, and I'll categorize that differently. But I just think that glitch for so long has been at the cutting edge of electronic music in that like kind of down tempo, mid tempo, up tempo range. And I know there's a lot within those different areas, but I think it's oftentimes been at the cutting edge of electronic music along with some of the stuff like minimal techno, etc., where it's really broken new sounds open and has really touched every single part of electronic music with stuff like the sound design that comes from glitch, with some of the compositional elements, etc. I just think that you really have to respect what glitch as a genre and as a broad genre has done for electronic music, and I think you really do have to put it at the top. Next up, drum step. I'm gonna put drum step kind of. I feel like probably just at a D, just because I feel like the sound design's a little bit more interesting than what we have in the F category right now, which is big room. I think drum step actually brings in some of the sound design from glitch, brings in some of the sound design from earlier dubstep. It does put it into a much more aggressive kind of up-tempo dubstep and kind of bringing in some of those drum and bass elements. It's again not something that I listen to all that much. I'm not a lot of what I'm saying here is because I'm not a super high energy music kind of person. I like stuff that's very much in the pocket, that's in the groove, etc. Other parts of me, I listen to a lot of jazz. I listen to a lot of R&B. So for me, that's not as much what my sound is, but I think that I'd put it a bit above big room because I feel like there's more interesting stuff that happens in drum step compositionally than there is in big room. And you'll see that there will be other subgenres of dubstep specifically that I'm not as friendly to. Epic trance, I don't really know what that designation is. I'm just going to say don't know or don't listen to. Jump style, again, super high energy. You're going to see the theme with me here is a lot of this super high energy stuff I'm just not really going to be too into. Chill out, I'm going to put chill out into a B. I think it has a pretty wide range, but I also think it's pretty niche. I think, for me, it is something where when it's right, it can be done really right. But I also think that a lot of chill out kind of borders into lo-fi, like lo-fi girl on YouTube or something like that, where it's like kind of great background music, but it's not really like interesting music. It's music that's a little bit slower, a little bit more drawn out. There's not a lot of changes or movement that happens in a lot of chill out songs. So I feel like it's good. It's probably closer to the kind of stuff that I listen to, but I don't think I can put it all the way up into A or S tier because I feel there's not a lot of innovation that happens in the chill out genre. It's just kind of clean music, like it's perfectly fine background music, but it's not necessarily something that to me is like exciting from a musical direction. Going back here, automatic F tier, death step. This is gonna. I don't know if there's how many different subgenres of the heavier side of dubstep there are, but a lot of that kind of stuff will end up in my F tier. But you will see, and I hope that they have it. You'll see that actually some of the more minimal ends of dubstep are actually going to be much much higher on the list. I don't know exactly how in depth this list is going to go. I was looking at a few before I started, but anyways, drum and bass, I'm going to put at a C for me. And so the reason I'm putting drum and bass at a C is because even though, and I might actually even put drum and bass at a B, just because For me personally, no, because I don't really listen to drum and bass like that. I respect it, but I don't really listen to it. The reason why is just for me, it's a little bit too up tempo, but there's so much in terms of like cutting edge sound design and like as a driving force in drum and bass, that you have to respect it as a genre and for what it's broken open in the genre of electronic music. Like the overlap between something like glitch sound design and drum and bass sound design and some of these other subgenres that we're going to touch on is so there's so much overlap there that I can't just simply say that I would never listen to drum and bass or that there's drum and bass that I don't like. I actually do like stuff like liquid drum and bass, which is kind of like the melodics of a chill out or a mid tempo, but with drum and bass beats. That stuff's pretty good. There's definitely like neuro drum and bass, which I'm not sure if I know there's a couple neuro things down below, but I don't really think that I can comfortably put it any lower, even if I don't really listen to it all that much. I think that if I do it like this, I think I might actually have to move drum and bass a little bit higher. And I think I'm going to put glitch hop probably in B as well. Glitch hop is just really challenging because it can really have a wide range. Like glitch hop brings in so many elements of like the original parts of electronic music and the groundbreaking sound design. But then sometimes you listen to some glitch hop and like it kind of has the same thing where it feels very formulaic. Like it doesn't really feel like there's like really like much there. In the same way that I was kind of saying that electro swing is, where it's just like you kind of listening to it and you're like and the songs like maybe the sound design is good, but the song isn't interesting. I just feel like there's a lot of that happens in glitch hop, and so I feel like it's the kind of thing where I've listened to a ton of glitch hop in my life, and I just have a really hard time saying that it could be much higher than B, just because while the peaks of glitch hop are probably S tier, I think that the floor of glitch hop is probably like D. So I'm gonna put it as a B, just giving it like a nice mean, but I think that that's kind of where it fairly sits. Next up, I'm going to actually put Deep House into an A. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because this list itself does not really have a lot of great like house and techno delineations. I looked at a few other lists. There were some that were like better with like house and techno, but were way worse with the sound design side of electronic music. So I kind of went with this, and I'm just being very clear about the fact that this list isn't that great on the house and techno side. So I'm going to put Deep House at an A, and I'm going to just basically say, that's your deep house, that's your minimal house, that's your like kind of deep melodic house, that might be even be like your tribal, your desert house, that might be your minimal techno, some of your melodic techno, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like all of those kinds of things can like be widely, very, very inappropriately categorized under deep house. And I just want to put it up there because I have a lot of respect for those genres. And those are genres that, while I might not listen to them all the time, they're incredible in the live experience. And really, when you find the right mixes in those genres, they're just really, really good. So I'm going to put deep house up into the A just because of that. Next up, Complextro. This is like sound designy, like really detailed, usually dubstep tempo, post Skrillex type of sound. I'm gonna put it at a C. I don't really go out of my way for it, but there's enough good stuff there where for myself, especially somebody who likes, glitch and IDM and sound design and everything like that, like I think it would be really rude of me to put Complextro lower because it does have so many of those elements. But I just feel like a lot of it is just basically drop to drop songs. And I feel like the better side of it is where it almost has that like kind of like future bassy, like a lot of playing with negative space and very technical and lots of hyper detailed micro edits and stuff like that. And that kind of stuff is really, really interesting. But it's a decently wide enough genre that the floor of it can be pretty low. And I don't really go out of my way for it. So I'm just going to put Complextra at a C and just say that like that's a respectful C because when it's done right, it's pretty interesting. Next up, I'm actually going to grab Neurofunk over here. And I think that in this context, I'm going to put Neurofunk up into the A tier. This like Neuro is like basically, the sound design of drum and bass and the sound design of glitch and all of that. The kind of rhythms of glitch hop and some elements of dub in there. It's a specific fusion that, like, when it's done right, it's really one of my favorite little subsets. It's like electro swing if electro swing wasn't really just, for lack of a better term, boring. It's like, because a lot of electro swing is basically just an electronic rhythm and then, just, like a repeating melody or a horn line or something like that, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But neurofunk kind of builds onto that and brings in some of those funk elements. And I think, I'm not the biggest funk fan. So, like, I think, like, if this was neuro hop, and I don't know if we have a neuro hop here, maybe. Um, if this was neuro hop, I think that this would probably be S tier. But I think actually because it's neurofunk specifically, I'm probably going to move it to the top of B tier and just go with that. This one, know. I don't know what this one is, so I'm just going to put this over here. It might be something very obvious that I'm missing, but I'm just going to put it over here. Next up over here, we have trip hop. I'm going to put trip hop as a guaranteed S tier. I mean, you have people like Fortet, you've got Bonobo, you've got, just so many artists that have built on that sound. Just going back decades at this point, the line between like instrumental hip hop and lo-fi and trip hop is a pretty fine line. But I think that trip hop specifically, when it's done right, artists like Forte, artists like Bonobo, even though at times they move into the house territories, I just think that it's just such an unmatched vibe with the music, and it's just like brings in so many different musical elements and is able to make the songs. The thing that I really love about good trip hop is it's oftentimes able to make really, really interesting music that oftentimes isn't particularly sample based. Like, it's usually original compositions, but also isn't necessarily hiding behind sound design. Like, these are usually really strong melodic compositions and rhythms, and they sit in the pocket and they have strong jazz influences. I just feel like trip hop, is a genre that just has the history, it's got the musicality, and it doesn't hide behind the technical side of electronic music. It's not like, oh, look at me making these big sounds and I'm just going to make a dinosaur growl and you guys are going to like it with a kick and a snare. It's like, no, like, we're really going to put our musicality front and center, and you're going to like this because it's a good song and because it's good music. And I think, like, I don't mean like, obviously there's lots of different kinds of good music, but just in terms of like compositionally and melodically, I just think that trip hop, when it's done right, is really in a league of its own. So I really have to put it up there. This next one, I don't know what it is. It's got a Pepe Frog. It's going to the don't know, don't listen. Electro, same thing as Big Room. It's going to go into the F tier. I just don't really care. I've heard a couple tracks that are hype. They're fine. It is what it is. Next up, new age music. I'm gonna put new age kind of in like the upper range of C, maybe borderline B, but I'll keep it at C. I feel like the thing with new age music is that oftentimes when I think of new age music, and maybe I should define it first, I think of like kind of like ambient and chanting and like and like people playing with drawn out synths and pads and really just having a lot of space in the music. I feel like while at times it can be good and it can be good to listen to in the background, I feel oftentimes it comes with like the spiritual ego that's attached to it. And like, I just don't really enjoy that vibe all that much. I don't really enjoy that energy all that much. And I don't really want to hear that when I'm listening to music. I don't really want to listen to people chanting or anything like that. Like, I just want to listen to music. So for me, while some new age music is good, I think just the genre as a whole just has so much that comes with it that I really can't put it much higher. Next up, UK Garage, all the way at the top, S tier. So if you don't know, this is definitely something like a Burial. I would say that like an artist like Cohen Sound is not really garage, but like they're like that like mix between like glitch and garage and like glitch hop, etc. So I feel like that there's a lot that's been built on the floor of UK Garage, and you just have to put it into S tier if you're in any way a fan of electronic music. I think one of the big things that was missing on this list as well was it didn't really have that like UK pre-Skrillex style of dubstep. Like if they had UK dubstep, I would put that alongside S tier as well. Just that really stripped down minimal sound. I think also there's a lot of really interesting stuff happening in the like future garage genre, which we'll get to in a bit actually. But I just think that with how foundational to the roots of electronic music UK garage is, and with just how interesting the music is, for their time, Burial was a groundbreaking artist. There's a lot of different artists who have built on that sound. There's a label called Small Print Recordings that's really good in that post UK garage or like maybe future garage or like jazz garage type sound. I just think that there's so much that it's built on, like the rhythms that are in that music. It's just you can't really go wrong with it. Like you're not going to put on UK like if you got the right stuff, you're not going to put on it on and have people pissed that you put it on. You might have people be like, "Oh, I don't know what this is," but they'll also then be like, "But it sounds pretty good." And I don't think you can necessarily say that. Like for example, like Big Room, you put that on in the wrong setting, you just would really piss off a lot of people. Whereas stuff like UK Garage, stuff like Trip Hop, you can put them on really into any setting and it kind of matches the room. And that's why these are kind of my S tiers. And I think maybe like there's a conversation about Glitch being a little bit more niche. So maybe Glitch coming down to like A tier might make sense. What I'll do is I'll put Glitch right now in S tier, but after Trip Hop and UK Garage. Next up, Future Bass. I'm actually going to put Future Bass probably at the upper end of B. I don't listen to it a lot, but I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff compositionally that happens in the future bass genre. I was talking earlier about how, something like Complextro draws in some of the elements of future bass with a lot of the use of negative space and like anti-drops where like it builds up and you think a drop is going to happen, but then it just drops into like a really smooth groove. There's a lot of really interesting stuff that happens in the future bass area. And the thing that I really respect about future bass as a genre is actually that it's really prides itself upon the melodic side. These are oftentimes artists who really do see themselves as composers and not just as producers. Like they're really trying to put together real musical pieces, not just doing sound design. Sometimes, especially in like the more gritty side of electronic music, it's just about how big and how sound design you can make a song, and you can get away with that a lot. If you have a big bass line and a big drum hit and you have some good sound design and it sounds good, you can get away with that. But I think the thing that I like about future bass is that they really do very interesting compositional choices in that genre oftentimes. And then also they really seem to pride themselves on being compositionally sound, like actually writing good melodies, writing, good counter melodies, harmonies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd say it's not something that I've done a lot with myself, but it is something where it's a genre that I really have enjoyed it when I have heard it. And I don't know why there's two future bass images here, but we're just going to put it up there twice. Next up, this might piss off some people. Psytrance. I'm going to put Psytrance into the D tier. The only reason that Psytrance is not in the F tier is because if you're in the right mood, like if you're in the right club or if you're at the right festival, at times Psytrance can be okay for me personally. Again, I'm not the up-tempo person and I get why people like it. But also, I feel like the reason why I would put it above something like Big Room or Electro or something like that is like, a lot of like the Big Room Electro or even like the Death Step or the harder styles of dubstep is really just straight up drop to drop music. Where oftentimes like with Psytrance, like a lot of what actually happens is not in like the drop moment. It's like in the fact that you've been pummeled by a kick drum for like an hour straight. And eventually you just kind of give up and start to really just kind of drop into the groove of the song. And I think if you're able to get to that point, Psytrance can be enjoyable, but it's such a bridge to cross for me to have to get through, like, because you're basically dealing with like a nonstop kick drum at really high tempo. And I get how it can be immersive and to a sense almost meditative. And I think that compositionally, there's a lot of really interesting stuff in terms of sound design that goes on there. Also, musically, I think there's a lot of global influences in Psytrance. But I just think for myself personally, it's not my favorite. I'm not going to go out of my way for it. And like, I'd really have to be in the right mood for me to really enjoy it. And that's hasn't really happened all that much for me. Next up, IDM. I'm going to put IDM into S tier. I just think it's such a broad label and it's really like it doesn't really mean anything other than like EDM, which is electronic dance music, and there's IDM, which is intelligent dance music. But like it's such a broad label that covers all of the subgenres that are just not like straight up dance floor stuff. So, you look at like broken beat techno or like broken beat glitch or neuro hop or etc. Even trip hop and all of those subgenres are technically underneath the umbrella of IDM, and that's really where I kind of listen to most of my music if I'm listening to electronic music. So I just think that while it's too wide of a label to really mean anything specific, I think there's so much good stuff underneath the IDM label that I can't really put it any lower than A tier. I think the only reason why would be maybe like you could say IDM includes stuff like noise and a lot of maybe even like some stuff like Gabber could maybe possibly be categorized as IDM. So like there's the experimental end of IDM that can sometimes not really be all that enjoyable to listen to, just as like I'm just gonna put on music and listen to it kind of vibe. So I can understand why people would maybe have it a little bit lower, but I think there's just the good outweighs the bad to such an extent with that designation that I think I just have to put it at S tier. Acid jazz, I don't really listen to it too much. I'm not going to get mad if it's on. It's the roots of house and techno are built on acid jazz, acid house, all of that kind of stuff. A lot of the Chicago house sound is built on that. I'm not really going to ever be mad if it's on. I'm not really going to go out of my way for it. Dark wave, I don't really know too much about it. I'm guessing it might be some delineation of synthwave. I'm just gonna say don't know, don't listen to. Goa trance, I'm gonna put Goa trance in the same category as psytrance. Like I think that like I don't know. I'm probably gonna put both of these higher than in that D category than electro swing or drum step. I'll probably put drum step over electro swing, but I just feel for me like Goa is really just a subcategory of psytrance. The differentiation isn't strong enough for me. It's basically very up tempo, four on the floor music that has some like global desert bass elements to it. It's good. It's all right. I'm not gonna really want to listen to it ever. I'm not really gonna enjoy it if it's on. Like if I'm at a concert, I'll probably go to a different stage unless nothing else is going. I won't be furious if it's on, if it's the only thing on, but I probably wouldn't be having the best time. So house, too broad. I think deep house at least digs in a little bit more into some of the subcategories. As I was saying, this whole list has some pretty glaring areas. The subcategories of house and techno that they had are really limited, but I just thought some of the other genres were well represented way better than some of the other lists that I looked at. I'll put house at B. It can be good. When it's good, it's really good. A lot of what I said about deep house before is relevant. I'll just put it at B. EDM, I'd say this is club pop stuff for the context of this conversation. I'll put it probably at like a D. I'd probably rather listen to psytrance over like club pop EDM, to be honest. So I'll put it over there. Breakcore, kind of the same thing. Like, this is the kind of side of IDM where stuff can really start to get really weird. I think that it's, usually really up tempo, kind of heavily glitched out, almost edging up towards stuff like Gabber. It's okay. I respect it and the people who make it because I know that, there's a lot of micro edits and there's a lot of work that goes into it, but it's just not really my thing. Bro step, automatic F, sorry. Like it's just not for me. I don't know what this is, so I'm just going to put it into the don't know or don't listen to it. Dub, I'm guessing that this is too wide of a genre, but I think I'm probably just going to put dub as a whole into the A tier. I just think that it's so foundational to the roots of electronic music. You can't really listen to electronic music without listening to dub music. And I think that you can also like put on good dub music in any setting. And like you could play good dub music at a coffee shop, but you could also like have a DJ play like an 11 o'clock set of dub music and have it be the same exact songs, and you'd still have a really great set or musical experience either way. I just think that there's so much of electronic music has been built on dub, and it's not only like what you think or in like garage or dubstep or two step and all of that stuff coming out of dub. It's also looking at a lot of the Latin roots in genres like Moombahton, looking at the Latin house, which Moombahton is a style of, looking at stuff like dub house, dub techno, all of that kind of stuff. It's just all over the genre. Any Latin influence in music is going to have some dub influence, reggaeton, all of that kind of stuff. You can't really say that dub isn't at minimum an A tier, and I think part of me is almost wanting to put it up to S tier, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Next up, trap. I'm going to put it at the bottom of D. I think trap, when it first came out in like late 2011, 2012, like, and specifically speaking about like EDM club trap, it was interesting. It was the first time that you heard like a lot of like the crossover from like the Dirty South, like Houston, Atlanta 808 style of music that then started to kind of transition into electronic music, and like really, really start to get popular. And I think it was really interesting, and there was a lot of fun stuff. But within a year, like every single producer was making it. I remember being on the festival circuit in like early 2013, and every single stage was just playing trap, 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 and that's never really stopped. And there's nothing really interesting that's come out of that scene since then, other than maybe bringing in a little bit more of the sound design and glitch elements. And I would just rather listen to stuff like glitch or garage or trip hop, etc., rather than just kind of the same formulaic stuff. So I'll probably I'm probably gonna put it into the F tier. I just feel like it didn't really change once it first came out, and for the first year or so it was all right, but after that it was whatever. Club hits. I don't really know what this means from this picture. I'm thinking like 80s dance music. I'm just gonna go with that designation and like put it into C tier. Like you can't go wrong with that. This one I think is the first time where we have like our first real change. So I know that before I had said that I'm going to put drum and bass into the B tier. I think I might not change actually. I think I'm just going to put liquid drum and bass into the B tier above it. There's just like, especially the neuro side of drum and bass, like I can't really say like, oh, I don't like drum and bass at all. Even if I don't like it, like neuro drum and bass really can really hit the spot. So I don't really want to move it down. Don't really listen to drum and bass like that, but there's enough good stuff there where like if I'm listening to it, I'm probably okay with it. But I would say that I would probably prefer liquid. And if I had an option here for neuro, I probably would do like neuro, then liquid, and then if I had those designations, I would probably move the rest of drum and bass down to like the D tier. I don't really know how much of the rest of drum and bass there is. So maybe we can actually just do it something like where this is liquid and this is neuro, and we just have them both in the B tier. Uplifting trance. I don't even know what that means. I feel like that's Swedish House Mafia and like what's the other name of that? There's another group that's really, really big. I think that live, it's actually really good. I'm forgetting the name of that other group. They're fantastic live. Anyways, I don't think you can really go wrong with it. I'm not really seeking it out. I definitely like looking at these. I guess also that would be pretty close to vocal trance. I guess I'll put it at the top of the C tier. By my understanding, this is like more instrumental side. Well, not necessarily fully instrumental, but it's the feel good side of trance music. I think that if you're live and like you're at a show and you're with friends and it's on, you're gonna have a really great time. And I think that alone, above and beyond, is what I'm thinking about. Yeah. So like I'd say like I'll probably just I don't know, I'm not gonna move it up to B tier, but I'll say that like you're probably if you're with friends and you're in the right spot, you're gonna have a really good time. But it's really just you're in the moment type music. It's to me, it's not the kind of thing that I'm like, I just want to listen to some music when I'm at home. I'm gonna put on some trance music. But I understand why people do. And I'm not going to sit here and say that it doesn't have its fan base. Side chill, Sabian, all of that kind of stuff. I would say this used to be S tier for me. I'm just going to put it at an A tier now. I feel like when you first start listening to it, it all sounds so new because it brings in the glitch sound and neuro sound design, and it brings in the global bass influence and like the desert bass influences, and it brings in the range of like glitch hop and some hip hop and some house drum beats and all of that kind of stuff. But I feel like if you listen to it for a while, like it kind of eventually starts to sound kind of similar. Like there's some artists in this space who are really, really world class. Like Quanta is an artist that comes to mind. I actually think he just had a new EP come out that I need to listen to. Who are just like so many degrees of separation away from the rest of the genre. But then I also feel like there's some people who every release they just kind of do the same thing because they're in that niche and that's what they make. So it's good enough to be an A tier because when it's good, it's really S tier. But I feel like there's also like I wouldn't say the lower end of it would go below C, but I also think that there are parts of it that can go all the way down to C. Next up, I'm gonna put lo-fi. I feel like lo-fi to me would be right above trance because like it does the same thing as trance music where it's like kind of like chill, easy listening, etc. But I feel like the nice thing for me at least about lo-fi is I don't really have to worry about like, oh, they're just gonna have some cheesy vocals coming in 2 seconds the way that you oftentimes have to, for me at least, think about with trance music. So for me, I would say that lo-fi is really probably B tier. I don't think it's like, let's say like lo-fi is probably right above chill out, but not by much. And then there's also like conversations about the amount of sampling in lo-fi that I'm a bit uncomfortable with, but I'm not going to go too far into that. J-core, I don't know what that is. I'm okay with that too. Electro rock, I'm just going to assume that this is whatever like Lil Wayne was trying to do with like rap albums where he was also playing guitar and stuff like that. I'm not saying that that's exactly that genre, but like kind of those kinds of cross genre fusions. I don't really like that stuff. I don't think it's interesting. I think it's actually kind of lazy. It's like it's not necessarily trying to move the genre forward. It's basically saying let's just take this other boring genre and mash them together. And oftentimes the songwriting becomes very boring because of that. I'm not saying all rock is boring. I'm just saying a lot of rock is boring. If those are fighting words, I'll deal with it. Eurodance, I feel like Eurodance is kind of like the same thing as like club hits, where like it's chill house music, maybe with some occasional vocals. I feel like as this is less of a genre category that I'm aware of, at least compared to stuff like trance. And I feel like this is not talking about like really specific subgenres like Berlin techno or something like that like very industrial sound. So I'm just going to put it at the bottom of C and kind of go with that. This right here, I don't know what this is. It looks like a Need for Speed picture with an anime character on it. I'm just going to put that in don't know, don't listen to. Jack and House, kind of the same thing as like what I was saying about acid jazz. Like it's house music. It's fine. Like you're not going to go wrong with it. It doesn't really move the needle for me either way. I'm not really going to listen to it. I'm not going to be mad about it. If I was there, if it was the only thing playing, I probably wouldn't want to be there eventually. Hardcore doesn't do it for me. It doesn't move the needle for me. I'm just going to put that into F tier. Hardstyle, same thing. F tier for me. High tech, it's a subgenre of psytrance. I'll put it up there with psytrance. I don't know why we have another trance. I'm just going to put that into the don't know, don't listen to because we already covered it. Speedcore, that's like super fast, up tempo, dubsteppy type sounds. I'm good. Trap style, same thing as trap. I'm just going to put it into the F tier. Gabber, it doesn't do it for me. Gabber basically is like cranking up your DAW, cranking up your like production suite all the way up to like 999 BPM and producing at super fast tempos. Doesn't do it for me. There's some, you could say that's like the more experimental side of like electronic music, and there's occasionally some interesting stuff happening there, but I'm not going to ignore that, but I'm also just going to say that it doesn't do it for me. Ambient, I'm going to put ambient probably above lo-fi. I feel like, and I actually might even put ambient towards the top of the B tier. I feel like it could be really good and it can also be very meh. I don't think it goes really below C or D just because like you're never going to really go wrong listening to ambient. Like it's not like you're going to be mad that ambient music is playing, but also like while its highs are like some of like the best songs ever written, like Brian Eno's music for airports, stuff like that. I think below is just very much similar to like lo-fi and chill out, where it's, it's just there. Like you're listening to it, you don't really care all that much. You're not going to be mad about it, but you're also, it's like not really moving the needle for you. So I'll put ambient there. Rhythm, I'll put rhythm into guaranteed F. Can have your opinion about that if you want. Chiptune, I'll put chiptune towards the top of C. I think it's a good genre. I feel like I've warmed up to it just because a lot of YouTubers use a lot of chiptune, so I've just had to listen to so much of it that I've actually been like, all right, this stuff isn't too bad. But I I don't know. It's not my favorite. I don't seek it out. But again, it's the kind of thing where like there's enough good stuff there. There's enough perfectly fine stuff there that I'm not too worried about it. 80s synth pop. I don't know. You can't like you're not gonna get mad if it's on. It's a little nostalgic. It is what it is. I don't know what this next one is. It looks like some kind of like synth wave, new wave kind of art style. I'm just gonna put that over there. Liquid dubstep. I'm gonna put liquid dubstep. My hope is I'm gonna put it to the bottom of B. My hope is that this is including like minimal dubstep. I just wish they had like a actual broken out designation here for stuff like minimal dubstep, because that would be S tier. But I'll put liquid dubstep into B just because I think it incorporates a lot of like while it doesn't really, but I think for this tier list will say that it incorporates a lot of the elements of like the minimal UK style dubstep, and we'll just leave it at that. I think it probably for me would be probably the top of B tier. Future pop, I feel like what's the difference between this and future bass? I don't really know if there's that much of a difference. I'll just put it at C. Glow sticks that say rave. Okay, great. Acid trance, I think, is just going to go along with some of the other ones. I think that's, some of the older styles of trance, bringing in some of the acid bass elements. I think I'll just put it into C tier. Jungle, I think, probably goes for me towards the bottom of B tier, top of C tier. I don't really listen to it. Respect it. It's good stuff. You can't really go wrong with Jungle. It's not something that I really listen to, but I'm not going to be mad if it's on. Lounge music, I think, is the kind of the same conversation that we've been having with stuff like lo-fi, chill out, ambient, etc. Like you can't go wrong with it. Like it'll be fine to listen to. Core, again, you guys know at this point for me, like a lot of that up tempo stuff, I'm just not really into it. And then Future Garage, I think, is probably going to be the last S tier for this as well. Just, building on the roots of UK Garage and bringing in a lot of like the jazz influences that we see in stuff like future bass, etc. So that's the tier list. Hope you've enjoyed this. The S tiers for me and these aren't necessarily, if I were to put them in an order, I'm not going to put them into an order. I'll just say for me, the S tiers would be trip hop, UK Garage, IDM, which is a big umbrella label. I might have to move it down to A just because it's so broad. I'd put glitch into S tier. I'd put dub into S tier. I'd put future garage into S tier. A tier, mid tempo, deep house, side chill, side all of that kind of stuff, and IDM. And then, in the B tier, we're looking at liquid dubstep, future bass, neurofunk, liquid drum and bass, probably neuro drum and bass over here, glitch hop, wide ranges of house that really were not categorized enough in this. There's really not enough categorization for house and techno on this list, but unfortunately this was kind of the best one unless I made one myself. Ambient, lo-fi, chill out, lounge, and jungle, all of those would be my B tier, and then the rest is the rest. So anyways, I hope you've enjoyed. Hope this has been informative for you as well. If this is the kind of thing that you're into, just drop a comment below so I can know to maybe make more videos like this. If you want to see me do a different style of music, if you want to see me do different genres, I am not open to doing individual artists, so please don't ask. But if you are interested in seeing me do more videos like this, drop a comment below letting me know like maybe what kind of genres, or if you want to see like just a broader genre, like not just electronic, but like one where it's like, what do you think about country music or whatever it is, like more than happy to do that. So drop a comment if you feel that's something that you'd be interested in. If you have any questions, if you disagree with me, completely cool. Let's chat about it below. Keep it respectful. Like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great day. Peace.